For your goodness and your grace, and the wonders of your ways, and the miracles you constantly amaze me with, I'll testify.
What are we talking about today, Tega?
Drummer, please. For everybody interested, dating.
Ooh. Nice spicy topic. I'm scared already. I don't know what she's gonna ask me.
What's your idea of dating? That's my first question. What does dating mean to you?
Well, I always say dating is not for mating.
It's for collecting data. And what are the 3 things you have to check? The fit, the fabric, and the finance. I listen.
She learns well. She listens. She does listen. I think that, especially with millennials, there's this rush. Well, is it cultural though? Let's be fair, because I think in America people take more time to get married and worry about getting married because they're very focused on career and getting what they want in life and all of that first. So they have a tendency to marry a little later.
But they date early.
They date early, and they fool around.
Like
they don't get married.
An African child, you have a boyfriend at 16. Who are you? Who are you?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah. But by 20-something, you're expected to be serious and getting married. So there's another leap in culture where the pressure is on to get married. And it really causes lots of young women and men to run amok. A lot of time is spent obsessing, being quite worried when it doesn't happen. Or people racing to the altar with the wrong people and then being miserable afterwards. So I believe that there has to be a balance, because I believe that God and his word supersedes culture. The root word of culture is cult. So we have to be very careful about why we believe what we believe, what really drives us in the choices that we make for life, and why we're doing what we're doing. So when it comes down to dating, I think you should date a lot of people. Now, when I say that, that is dating without benefits. That's no kissing, no touching. Dating,
No kissing?
No kissing.
How will you know if he has mouth or not?
Well, you know what? All of that is based on relationship, to be perfectly honest.
You cannot kiss whilst you're dating people? I mean, it's kissing.
That's nasty. How many people you gonna be kissing at the same time? If you're going out with 5 guys, are you really gonna be swapping, swap?
When you put it like
all
that?
off them, think about it. That's nasty.
That's gross.
Exchanging body fluids with so many different people. That's why those shows like The Bachelor and all that stuff, they just totally gross me out. They kissing 10 and 15 people to discover one. What? That's not even necessary. That's worldliness at its most bizarre level. It's just nasty. I don't want that many germs inhabiting my body, being taken into my system. Ugh. Okay, I got on the road. Anyway, all I'm saying is dating, and I will distinguish why I say no kissing and touching in dating.
No, no touching, just kissing.
No kissing. No kissing.
Okay.
Did you watch Pretty Woman?
Why? Yeah, she didn't kiss.
She didn't kiss.
Ahead.
Why didn't she kiss?
Because
you get emotionally involved. It starts the exchange of spirit. You're breathing into one another.
For millennials, you don't know what Pretty Woman is. Google, people.
Yes, Julia Roberts, one of my favorite movies. But anyway, and that fine Richard Gere, Lord have mercy. Anyway, I'm back. Anyway, as I was saying, no kissing during dating. Why? Because dating is the collecting data part of the exercise. So you are trying to surmise, is this person even qualified for courtship? Okay. Where you take that stuff to another level, because now you're down to 1.
Okay.
So no, you're not kissing 5 different people to figure out who kisses the best, because that is not how you choose. Number 1. Okay. Dating. So what does dating entail? What data are we collecting? We're collecting fabric. What is the person made of? Okay. That means not just observing him, observing family, observing friends. Birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah, I used to date this guy. I hated all his friends. My God, I couldn't stand them. Oh Lord. And he would always say, I'm not like my friends. I'm like, bro, bye. You're exactly like your friends when I'm not there. And that's what it was. Exactly
Yes.
like all his friends that I couldn't stand. I was like, I'm sorry, bye. No.
Exactly. So when we think about collecting data, you're really, let's put it this way, this person is applying for a job in your life. If you value yourself at all, okay, let's start there. Let me back up for a second. Because I think what happens when you're desperate and you see this other person as making you or confirming your identity or validating you or affirming who you are, you're starting off on the wrong foot already. That leaves you open to that person really abusing you mentally. They could start redefining you and renaming you, and you would acquiesce to it because you have no sense of self yourself. So start with a whole you.
Start with the whole you.
Be in the right position to own yourself, know yourself, love yourself, celebrate yourself. I'm not talking about being egotistical or, making up for issues you have, because some people love themselves so much that, like Shakespeare, you say, I think thou dost protest a bit too much. What's under all of that? Are you really insecure? Okay, so we can go to that level, but I'm just talking about a healthy balance of self. Once we've gotten that established, when you date someone, you're checking them out. They're applying for a job in your life, the job of being your mate. Can they handle the position? Are they equipped? Do they even have the skill set that you want for that position in your life? You see, when you go to interview at a job, you've got a CV, you've got background. You ask them questions about their last job. What happened on that job? Why didn't that job work out? What are their skills? What are they bringing to the party at this business? There's a lot of hard questions that you get asked. We don't ask the hard questions when we're dating because we're desperate. Ooh, this person likes me. It's like a dog who gets a bone when they have been starved for a few days. You don't sniff it to see if there's poison on it. You just go for the bone. Well, you need to have the interview. You need to ask the hard questions before you're invested. Dating is not where you invest. That is the interview. Dating is the interview. Remember that.
Dating is the interview.
What are they? Look at their family. Check out the family. Is the family dysfunctional?
Wait, are you meeting the family in dating?
If you're casual in your relationship, I go to my friend's house. I'm hanging out.
Okay.
I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna listen to how they talk about their family. I want to know family dynamics. I want to know about friends. I want to know about spending habits.
Okay.
I want to know if it's because if they're rolling big, then I want to know, is this just to impress me and you find out later they're in a bunch of debt? Or are they really fiscally responsible? Do they have anger management issues? How do they respond under stress?
Now for us, the millennials, dating is hanging out. I will say that for us, dating is hanging out. I'm just hanging out with him, and you know what hanging out means. People that I need to spend it out.
Yeah, hanging out always ends up including intimacy.
Yeah, but it's not that deep though. Like it's just hanging out. Don't take it personal.
But it is actually deep because you get involved emotionally.
No, we're just hanging out. You don't have to be emotional about these things.
That's what you think. We're wired in a way that when we experience intimacy with a person, we create soul ties. We create spiritual bonds. And so intellectually you can think, it's not that deep. It's just casual. It's just what I'm doing. And tomorrow it could be something else. But it leaves deep scars and it does affect future relationships. It becomes an accumulation of pieces of your soul being ripped off and removed. And so by the time you meet someone that's worthy of all of that, you don't have anything left to give.
Okay. All right. So, especially
for women, Men can do that and walk away, but women, no.
Some
we're
women
not wired
can.
that way. I think that it affects them in other ways that they're just not confessing or owning up to.
Okay.
That's what I think.
You know, we've had the conversation before, and I was saying my friend and I, we talked about it. It's like, but
It will catch up though, Tega,
Where?
because there is the spiritual dimension of a person's soul. And you know, God has a long leash. He lets you go for a long time, but all that stuff comes back to kick you in the butt. Remember we talked about today's choices accumulating in tomorrow's outcome. And so you keep that up. It does wear on your soul, and it does have an impact later on in life.
you keep that up, it does wear on your soul. And it does have an impact later in your life. I'm talking to you. She's talking to you. Keep it in your pants. Anyways, so whilst we're on the topic of dating, before we even graduate, I think there's a small portion number of people like me, women, not a lot.
Wait, let me finish the 3 factors first. Before
Oh,
we
okay,
get to that.
sorry, go ahead.
So the first one is fabric.
And the second one is
Was
what? Fit.
When you go shopping, I can like the fabric, but if it doesn't fit me, I can't take it home.
What if you take it home and you think you'll lose weight?
It just sits in your closet, right? You never get to wear it. And so the relationship never gets to the place that it should be because there's no room for it. You know, and that comes into purpose, that comes into who you are, that comes into weighing your values and your beliefs, and making sure that those are in alignment. Most people that I end up counseling in relationships, when I say, what is your values? Give me your top 5 values. What are your top 5 beliefs? What do you believe strongly? And then I say, okay, so does that person have the same values? Do they have the same beliefs? The answer is always no.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a tendency to think that we can fix people, but the only person that fixes people is the Holy Spirit, and that takes a lifetime. So, you know, have those conversations. Again, that's the interview. If I go to work at Apple, I have to have a knowledge about computers.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why am I there? I have to have a love and a passion for tech if I'm at Apple.
Yeah.
If I don't, I'm not in the right place. Could be a great company, the pay could be great, the benefits could be great, but it's not the right fit for them or for me. Let's not torture the other person or ourselves by forcing a relationship that's not on the same wavelength, not in the same book. You don't have to be doing the same things, but your values and your beliefs have to be in alignment. The word tells us, how can 2 walk together except they agree?
Agree, yeah.
The other thing that's important is finance. How much is this relationship costing you? Mentally, physically, spiritually? Is it exceeding your love budget? We all have a budget, you know? And is it making you spend yourself in ways that are not really true to you, that are not allowing you to be your authentic self, that are taking away your peace as you think about, why did I do that? And that's not really what I prefer, but okay, I'm going along with it and maybe it'll change. No, these are the things. Just remember that those microscopic irritants become huge grates later when you're in a permanent relationship. It doesn't get better. It intensifies and magnifies because now you're stuck in that position.
Yes, you're not going home. You're staying in the same house. Yeah.
So those are the 3 factors for dating, which
Finance,
is not mating,
fit,
and finance. And when you've passed all 3 of those levels, then you move to courtship. And even there, you have to be careful with all that touching and tasting and stuff. Now, my mentor would say you don't get to kiss until you get to the altar. I'm not that stringent. I don't think that that's true. But you have to have your own personal understanding of what your boundaries and limitations need to be in order for you to stay holy. And that's a conversation you have between the 2 of you.
Yeah.
Not one person trying to implement that and the other person saying, what's wrong with this?
Yeah, so what does that mean? Like when you say your personal boundaries? Because like for me, we're not just kissing. I mean, what's that about? We are finishing it while we're kissing. So, if I was dating and we were kissing, best believe we're not just kissing. Just no.
Right, and that becomes a personal boundary. That becomes the understanding of what you can and cannot do. So you have to decide, what are these boundaries going to look like to keep us both holy, to keep us both in favor with God? Because if you love someone, you don't want God to be mad at them.
Yeah.
So now, what does that mean? What does that look like? Does that mean we don't spend time alone? We make sure that we do a lot of group activities, or if we're alone, there's someone around the house or something, that is keeping us on the straight and narrow. Because I think you do have to have that time alone for conversations and things like that. But within what context is it? So you have to be able to set your boundaries, know what your triggers are. If there's certain things you shouldn't be watching, listening to, that are going to heighten your desire for things that you shouldn't be doing, put those things on the shelf for afterwards and call it a day.
Okay. Call it a day. Know your boundaries, people. If you know that you're not just going to be kissing, then you should not be kissing at all. But if you know that you can stop at kissing, do you, boo? Right?
Yeah, that about sums it up.
Okay, so I just wanted to I was saying this the other day. I'm like, there's no self-help books. There are no podcasters or YouTubers or anything for people like me who have finally gotten to a point in their life where they're just being very truthful with yourself and saying, I don't think I want to be married. And there's nothing out there. Like when you say it, people bind the demon out of you. I was literally talking to somebody when I said it to the person, and this person, she's a pastor. She was like, I reject it in Jesus' name. I'm like, what is Jesus rejecting here? Do you? So
Well, I think too that we are in a culture where everyone is expected to get married.
And not all of us are
And not all of
newsflash.
us, and it's not even possible, okay? And that's not a lack of faith statement. It's actually quite biblical. It says in the last days that 7 women will cling to one man and say, give me your name and I'll buy my own bread to take away my shame. So it's just talking about statistical averages, for women of color. We got a lot of men in jail in America. And then there's another whole quotient of people that are gay. And then there's the other factor of the people that are married. And then if you're a Christian, there's a whole world of folks out there that are not saved. So you can't really pick from them. I mean, so on.
And then if you're African, no shade, there's a whole lazy man that you cannot even relate to. So it's like, what you gonna do?
Or whatever. So the pie slices get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. And that's just the reality of it. Now, somebody's hair is on fire right now. I know they're saying, well, what about, didn't God promise everyone will have their mate? He was talking about animals. We're talking about people in that scripture. And we like to get the context without the protext and the pretext. Okay.
Yep.
So, so let us be realistic about this, that in the era that we live in, everyone will not get married.
Everyone
now, what does that
will
mean?
not get married.
I believe that God will make it all right with you. And that there will be other realms of fulfillment that you experience where that's not something you think about. Now, I'm mildly interested in being married. It's not something I think about every day. I don't pray about a mate. I just feel like God has had great taste with running my life and putting things in and taking things out at will, because I'm surrendered to Him on a daily basis. So for me, it's like, God, if I will function better with a husband and you want that for me in my life because it makes me better for you, great. Otherwise, I'm good because you take really good care of me.
See, but we have different mindsets on that. You were saying, God, if a husband would work, we should pray the will of God. But low-key in my heart, I'm like, God, you know that this is not it. So just don't bring it. Let me just be. I have found, and I take this podcast, any boyfriends I've had, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I have found ways to break. I will find a way to end it. Because when I'm dating somebody, I'm not in my element. It's not me. I don't like the way I feel. It's even that deep that please don't call me baby.
Okay. Well, the Bible does say there are 3 types of singles. One is a eunuch who has no desire for marriage. That's a gift from God. It is slated as a gift from God. Paul said that it's better to remain single if possible because you would be more concerned about ways to please the Lord than please your mate. Your priorities have to shift when you're married, and God expects your priorities to shift. It's His will that they shift because you're there to serve your mate. Being married does infringe on the amount of time you will have available to God. That is a realistic look at life. There are those who are widowed and divorced, so they're single again. And there are those who have not had the opportunity or chosen to get married, I will say, because I think that most people actually have the opportunity. They just had an opportunity with someone they did not want to be with. Therefore, it's a choice that you've been single. So, that's the other thing that we have to take into consideration, that we could be married. We just chose not to be married to that particular person.
So what would you say to somebody who because I struggled with it for a long time. I'm like, is something wrong with me? Like, why am I not a lovey-dovey? Like, I have a friend, one of her children, she is a hopeless romantic. And then when I look at her, I'm like, I don't get it. Why is this? For example, her boyfriend at the time, his birthday, it was hot. If you live in Ghana, you will know how Ghana sun is boiling. Like, it was hot, and she came from the hot sun. Like, you can see she was exhausted, and she had to dress up to take a cake. I'm like, can't you just Uber this cake to this? Like, does it take all of that? You should even be grateful if I get you a cake. Then I have to go through all of this to bring the cake, baby.
Yeah, you stay single. You stay single. Oh man, he'll be wondering what's wrong with him.
It's like, so for a long time I was like, something has to be wrong with me, because it's not. And then as I'm getting older, I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I don't want to be anybody that's not okay with it. I'm so sorry for you.
Well, that's okay. I say it's fine. I've never pressured you in that area.
No, you have not.
I also feel that God completes us. When you look at that movie, Show Me the Money movie, and he says, you complete me. That's just a lie. Nobody can complete you. God completes you. And I believe that if he ever got to the place where he wanted you to be with someone, he would create that space in your heart for that person. Until then, you actually don't need that space, because it's just a setup for frustration. I mean, if the person isn't there,
and then I frustrate the other person.
Yeah, I mean, so that's why I always say that marriage should not be a goal. It's a setup for frustration. If you're in the middle of a desert and you decided you wanted an ice cream cone, that's not the time to think about an ice cream cone. There's no ice cream anywhere. And so all you would end up doing is being frustrated. But if you happen to be by an ice cream shop and say, I think I'll go in and have an ice cream, it's more available. So I think that we spend a lot of time spinning about things that are beyond our reach at that moment, and it just enlarges our frustration, leads to depression, leads to us questioning God and wondering why and what's wrong with me, blah blah blah. Whereas if you're living your life, and like Ruth, you happen upon a field and you're spotted by Boaz, then organically that whole thing unfolds for you, and the desperation isn't there. And you have clarity, because desperation diminishes discernment. And so it's very, very important not to be in that space where you're driven by a goal. We're to have goals, but goals should not have us.
Yeah, so be encouraged if you're like me. And this is after therapy, this is after mentoring, it's just maybe I had daddy issues, which I did, or I have life issues. But after sorting and admitting and seeing the patterns and everything, I still don't. So if you're like me and you're in Africa, I'm praying with you, because I know the. And then there's this thing of how people think you're not serious with your life. Because it's like, when did marriage become
a serious thing?
It's like, oh, that one, she's not serious.
Yeah.
Okay.
So be married and be miserable and
be serious. We are very unserious. Oh, let me tell people one funny story. One of my aunties, and then I was at home with my mom and my dad's sister, and my mom told her that I said I don't want to be married. My auntie fell on the floor, was rolling and crying. Oh, why? Oh, why? I was like, the man has other children. One of them is married. Can you let me be? So you want to destroy your father's lineage? You want his name to die? I was like, the man has 3 other kids. I think his name would be fine.
Yeah.
I think so. I really do think so.
But you see what I'm saying? That's actually not a biblical stance. God he's not run by all these rules. He's bigger than that. He transcends our culture and our tradition and all of these things that we've put in place to secure ourselves in this earth. But we're not of this earth. So we really have to examine these mindsets in light of God's heart towards us. Ultimately, no good thing will he withhold from those who walk uprightly before him. So if it's good for you and it's a good and perfect gift, you would have it now. And if it could be good, but not perfect for now.
Okay.
So that's important to know.
That's important. So, as a millennial, let's talk about sex.
Okay.
Cue the song. Let's talk about. Let's talk about.
Let me call Salt and Pepper up.
Okay. Talk about the big SCX.
Well, it's reserved for marriage.
But see, African Americans, I've heard that they also, have the same experience. But as an African, what sex? Where are we talking about it? Have you read your Bible? Have you prayed? Nobody told us about sex. Like I was saying, sex wasn't something we in the home. It was not mentioned when I started my period. It was just, this is how you use a pad. Don't sleep with a boy, if not you'll be pregnant. Father, I bless you for bringing my child into womanhood. I pray that you guide her in the name. That was my sex ed. In the name of Jesus, amen. That was my sex ed. Even in schools, especially in Africa, sex was ed. There was no sex ed anywhere. So most of us learned about sex through experiment, through things we did not need to be doing at the time. And I think that when people have information about what sex is, it helps them to make adequate decision. For example, my sister, I talk with my younger sister a lot about sex, and so I know that she doesn't feel the need, because it's something that we talk about all the time.
Yeah. If
If she likes a guy and she's feeling a certain type of way, she'll tell me, But yeah, so what would you say to millennials about sex? That maybe these new generation millennials, maybe their parents are changing and talking to them about sex, but people my generation, please, if your mother told you about sex, please comment. I want to hug your mother or your father. But she talks so much with me about sex that sometimes I'm like, mother, TM. I really don't need, my ears are burning. But yeah, it's that open that I can tell her, about sexual stuff. So talk about sex with the people.
Well, first of all, I think the most important thing about sex is that you should know the value of your own body.
Drops mic, leave stage.
If you have a priceless diamond, you don't allow everybody to touch it. You don't leave it laying around for anybody to sample because it has value. If you know anything about designers' originals never go on sale. You can't pay the price for that thing, it just won't be yours. Samples given. So I think knowing the value of your body, understanding the spiritual aspect of sex, that it's not just a physical act,
And
that
let's
it is spiritual.
talk about that some more, because millennials, we don't see it as that. Why? That's why we keep humping and sleeping with everybody, because for us, the whole concept of sex being spiritual is like, please, you people are just killjoys. And you don't want us to have any fun. But why is sex spiritual? What is this whole concept about? How? When anything happening to me is physical. So,
Well, the Bible talks about the fact that who we give ourselves to, we become a slave to that person. I don't think millennials would like the word slavery.
most of you are slaves, baby.
Yes. And and I've shared with you that when I was in college, my
no, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
Oh, that is so funny. But I had boyfriends that I liked sexually, but I did not like them as people. So you could get into a situation where you're in bondage to someone that you don't even like. It says that who you join your body to, you become one with that person. So literally, you are taking on that person in yourself. Now, if that's a despicable person, do you really want to be one with a despicable person? Just because they're good in bed, but you begin to take on aspects of that person. See, God created sex to be glue.
Yeah.
So he designed it to keep two people together. So it was never a function of, you come together and you go apart. So when that breaks up, and anyone would be honest and say that it's easier to break up with someone you have not slept with than someone you have slept with. Why? Because the glue element isn't there. When that person leaves you or you leave them, you're leaving pieces of yourself behind. They've deposited into you. Sorry for the graphic picture, but they've deposited something that is left inside of you. Now, you do that several times. Where do you go? By the time you find some really nice man to marry, you've got comparisons in your head. Oh, he doesn't do it the way Joe did. Oh, Kojo is a much better kisser. If you didn't have those references, you'd be able to enjoy that person and nurture that relationship and exchange into what you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But now the comparisons are there. The lack of trust is there. Because it does affect the trust factor.
Yeah.
If a man knows that he can get you and then you're not around, he feels other people can get you too. If he can't get you, his ego says no one else can get you either. So there's a trust element to this that is also very important. But the spiritual aspect is that God made it as a spiritual glue. You cannot get around that conversation.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And so, what we have to understand is it is worship. Literally, when it says no, Adam knew Eve and she conceived. When we worship God, it is also in the same level of knowing. There's an intimacy, a kissing forth of God.
Yeah.
And so literally, that worship is supposed to take you into the Holy of Holies where the presence of God comes down and blesses. But if you're not married, he can't bless that.
Yeah.
And he can forgive you, but there might be consequences. There might be pregnancy, there might be disease, there might be just the feelings of betrayal and rejection when it doesn't work out, when you've given your everything. Because there are still those women, even among millennials, that if you've slept with someone and invested yourself in them and they walk away from you, you are toe up from the flow up because all you can think about was, I gave myself to them and they rejected me. And it might have nothing to do with you. They just weren't ready for you. But you gave too much too soon.
Please don't give too much too soon. Learn from the rest of us. Well, some of us didn't care, but okay. I'll cut that part out.
So how do we deal with sexual temptation is the other question there.
Yeah.
And that is, it starts with your mind, because your mind is the most powerful participant in sex.
Yeah,
Okay?
it is.
So really mastering our mindset and what we think about, what we occupy our thoughts with is huge.
What you watch. People
What
think
you listen to.
people think it's not. See, everybody was telling me power. When I saw some episodes of Power, I'm like, I cannot watch this. It's not gonna lead to anything good. If Power, if you're a Christian and you want to be single and you want to do it right, you
Certain
don't
things
watch
you
Power.
can't watch. Certain music you can't listen to.
Yeah,
Flirtations that lead to dark.
they're harmless flirtations. Not
They lead to somewhere. They start feeding your mind. They start making thoughts twirl around in your subconscious, and then you finally get together and I couldn't help myself. It just happened. No, it started. It started at the conversation level. Okay, it started with the stimulation of the conversation.
yeah, like
The stimulation of the conversation. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say about that. There. So, accountability is important. Walking with people that you can be transparent and accountable with, so that when you're struggling, you let them know and they're able to pray with you, talk with you. And the fact that you're going to have to go back and face that person sometimes keeps you where you need to be. Also, physical exercise. All of that energy has to go somewhere. And so you have to really take care of your body. Make sure that you're working out, that you're active. And I'm going to say add the element of worship, because if you're worshiping and you're in the presence of God, it's going to kill a lot of your flesh raging.
Yeah.
Because your mind is being led by the Spirit rather than your flesh.
Yeah. And then see, when you run whilst worshiping, combine both of them. It works. Telling you, since July that I've been running, I hardly feel things. Run and listen to the scriptures. Run and put a podcast on.
Yep, it's
You'll
important.
feel things, but not as regularly as
So
before.
devotional time is so critical to getting ourselves in the right mindset and staying in the spirit versus the flesh. How we set up our day is how the rest of the day runs into the night. So I think that it's important to have a strategy for how to be victorious over your sexuality.
Well, that's a new one. We both just heard it. Have a strategy for how to be victorious. Set a plan and stick to the plan.
Yes.
Thank you for coming to your podcast.
So hopefully we've answered some of your questions today. And if you have many more, you can always send them to admin@michellehammond.com. We'd love to answer some questions on our next broadcast. Let's thank Tega, because she just, is so stimulating of a conversation. And if you liked what was said here, hey, share it with some people. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button so that you know when the next podcast is up. That helps us and it supports our ministry. So please do that. Visit my website, www.michellehammond.com. Sign up for the MMH Tribe, which is my mentorship. Also, I do offer coaching to you. So if you need more direction and hands-on clarity and guidance, I am there for you as a coach. So make sure that you visit the website. Lots of resources, lots of things to help you and guide you in every aspect of your life. And tune in next time. We'll be back.